The Kansas City Chiefs have wrapped up day 6 of training camp, day 2 of full pads, and there is a lot of stuff to talk about with this practice in particular, so let's go ahead and get into it. I have separated today's video up into sections by position, tweets about players by position, and we're going to get into that in just 1 second. But guys, if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, so consider hitting the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed to stick around for more Chiefs content in the future. And if you like what it is that I do here, appreciate or like what it is that I do here, hitting the like button lets YouTube know to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. Along the offensive line, we get this from Pete/Sweeney. It appears Kingsley Suamataia and Mike Caliendo are once again the top team left tackle and left guard, respectively. Now, I mentioned yesterday that we need not read too much into the fact that Kingsley is starting at the left tackle position, because to that point they had been switching back and forth each day between Kingsley and Wanye. However, 2 days in a row of Kingsley being the top team left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs is a little bit more information to go on, and I think that right now it appears Kingsley Suamataia is actually leading that positional battle. Mike Caliendo, I think, is a little bit more troubling. You would hope to see, if Wanye Morris is not going to be the top team left tackle, he get a few reps at the left guard position. Of course, this is all in case Joe Thuney is not back for week 1. That pectoral strain must have been much more serious than we were at first led to believe, thinking that he could play in the Super Bowl. Well, here we are some months later, and he is not even able to practice. So will Joe Thuney miss games this season? We have to start, I think, asking that question. Almost assuredly, he will not be prepared for the first preseason game, now quickly approaching. Pete also tweets out, Kingsley Suamataia is getting work as the top team left tackle and second team right tackle. Wanye Morris working as the second team left tackle. This is a little confusing. One would imagine that if Kingsley Suamataia is the starting left tackle, he would have no need to learn the right tackle position, especially as he is a rookie. You would think, get him into camp, get him on the field, get that playbook drilled into his brain as far as what it means to start at the left tackle position. Only rep left tackle stuff. Only learn the left tackle plays. If it is, in fact, the chance that he will be the starting left tackle. This leads you to believe almost that Wanye Morris is simply not being given those first team reps because of the fact that he has 4 games of starting experience under his belt. Kingsley would need the reps at left tackle more, because it looks at this point as if both of those players, Wanye Morris and Kingsley Suamataia, are training for the swing tackle position. I don't know why else you would have Kingsley, line up at the right tackle position at all, if not for the fact that he may have to play there, if not for the fact that he may not be starting at left tackle. Ron Kopp pops up and says Hunter Nourzad is the second team center. I like how quickly he pounces on defensive linemen from the snap. Super solid foundation. He then goes on to elaborate on the fact that the very next play, Hunter Nourzad snapped a ball right over Carson Wentz's head. That sort of thing happens. Hunter Nourzad being the second team center is, I think, comforting at this point. We haven't heard anything about CJ Hansen to this point in camp. It seems likely to me that he is on his way to the practice squad to start the season, which means he will get cut at the 53-man cut date and hope to pass through waivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. Hunter Nourzad being the second team center is, a good thing. I don't know if it's a good thing that he is not the second team left guard. Certainly, Mike Caliendo proved over the last 2 seasons, a redshirt season on the practice squad and then last year on the regular squad, that he is an NFL offensive lineman. He also proved that probably he is a reserve NFL offensive lineman. If Hunter Nourzad were to be able to make his way up to what is right now the starting left guard spot in Joe Thuney's absence, it would be a monumental thing for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that Mike Caliendo is still he's a third string offensive lineman that is a third string offensive lineman. You want to have him on your team because he is an NFL guy. You probably do not want him starting. If Joe Thuney is unable to come back, I think you want someone able to step on the field above Mike Caliendo. Ron also chimes in, Chew Godric is looking more and more like an NFL offensive tackle. Tucked elbows, driving feet through contact, just plays a little high sometimes. Now, the reason I include this is not because I expect Chew Godric to be a starter on either side of the line, not because I expect Chew Godric to start anywhere along the line, not because I really necessarily think we'll see Chew Godric on the field anytime soon. Here's what it means. If the Kansas City Chiefs got Chew Godric basically for free, which they basically did, kind of the same thing as a UDFA when you're bringing him in through the International Player Program, the rich get richer, right? Offensive tackle is a high leverage position in the NFL. We saw that through Yasir Durant, who had very minimal starting experience for the Kansas City Chiefs, just a couple games, if I am remembering correctly, have the value to be traded to the New England Patriots for a 7th round pick straight up. Offensive linemen in the NFL are at a premium. If the Chiefs just got a lineman at a discount rate, basically for free, and he is an NFL guy, I've often said Brett Veach is the type of guy that stops to pick up a penny. That's how you build a fortune. That's how you build a fortune in the NFL, stopping to pick up the pennies. Players who are passing through the draft, players who you are able to pick up basically for free. Chew Godric, Jack Cochran. You're talking about Tershawn Wharton. You're talking about so many UDFA that have made an impact for the Kansas City Chiefs because they're constantly picking 30th, 31st, 32nd. They have to find a way to get some value somewhere else. Ron also noticed Kingsley losing his block a few times in run situations. Gets on defensive linemen fast, but needs to work on bringing his feet with him and keeping his base. This was one of the often cited criticisms of Kingsley Suamataia, and honestly, this is one of the reasons that offensive linemen who are actually offensive linemen in the NFL are at such a premium. Moving the feet and the hands, right? The feet and the hands. A lot of offensive linemen are strong in the arms. Where are they putting their hands? A lot of offensive linemen are immovable guys. Doesn't mean they are doesn't mean they're very mobile. Right? We saw this with I'm going to blank on his name, the offensive tackle out of Kentucky that the Chiefs had drafted and is no longer a Kansas City Chief. He drafted him in the 5th round. Anyway, he was not mobile. He was not a mover. He was a big guy. He was a strong guy, but he was not mobile enough to be on the offensive line for the Chiefs. Trying to find that guy's name. It's going to bug me. But here we go. Darian Kinnard. Darian Kinnard had no mobility. He wasn't great with his hands, but he was much better with his hands than his feet, and his feet not moving got him in trouble for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is no longer a Kansas City Chief, as he would not, as he didn't pass through waivers. Someone else claimed him, but the Chiefs didn't have a spot for him on the active roster because he could not learn to move his feet. Ron also notes Kingsley Suamataia continued to start at left tackle and continued to show off his athleticism blocking on the move. However, there were a few reps where the defensive lineman slipped off the initial engagement. It really comes down to bringing his feet with the punch and keeping a square base. These are things, unlike Darian Kinnard, Kingsley has shown you in little bits and pieces. There are things that Kingsley has been able to do once in a while. Darian Kinnard got on the field and he was just a brick wall. There's a place for that. Probably it's a reserve offensive lineman, and you don't have to keep that guy on the active roster all the time. Kingsley has shown that he is able to move, he is able to be mobile, he is able to hit people on the run. He just doesn't always keep his feet moving in the process. This means that if he can do it, he will be able to do it more often with the practice. Ron also adds, and this is the last offensive line note, Wanye Morris was the second-team left tackle and stood out as an overall positive Saturday. His highlight was a goal line down block where he pancaked Bolton. His pass set was looking clean against FAU in 1-versus-1, and he was also used as the sixth offensive lineman with the starters, had a pass thrown his way in goal line. I'm not ready to make a call yet as to what I think is going to happen at the left tackle position. We have the big signs are that Kingsley is ahead in this competition. The little signs are that I haven't heard one thing about Wanye Morris taking reps at right tackle. We've heard about Kingsley taking reps at right tackle. The little things are we haven't seen Wanye Morris learn any of the or line up any at the guard position. He is a guy who has the strength, mobility, and compactness to be able to play offensive guard in the NFL. If you think Joe Thuney is not going to be ready for week 1 and you think that Kingsley Suamataia is your starting left tackle, then probably you try to give Wanye Morris some looks at left guard. They've had Lucas Niang at left guard. They've had Mike Caliendo at left guard. There was, I believe, Hunter Nourzad yesterday lining up some at left guard. They have tried many things at the left guard position. If you really thought that Kingsley was running away with the left tackle position, Wanye Morris is absolutely one of the six most talented offensive linemen on the Kansas City Chiefs. You would attempt to get that guy on the field if you knew he wasn't starting. I don't think they know that yet. Moving on from Pete, we get a note about the running backs. Deneric Prince has been the second-team running back in 4 straight practices and counting. Once again, I don't know that I'm ready to necessarily call this. I have said I think Deneric Prince is the second best running back, or at least has the second most impressive tools on the roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Just seeing him at the number 2 spot for 4 consecutive days, I don't know that we can read too much into that because we know Clyde Edwards-Helaire does not need those reps. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has an extensive injury history, so not having him on the field but keeping him in shape through the conditioning drills, etc., is going to help extend his longevity, even if it's only into the one season for which he is currently signed. Deneric Prince needs those reps with the number 2s, needs those reps with the number 1s in order to figure out a little bit more about the game of NFL football. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has plenty of NFL snaps. PJ Green chimes in. So far today, we've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Louis Rees-Zammit take direct snaps. Wanye Morris as a receiver, and Carson Steele at fullback. The Chiefs camp pulling the tricks out today. I think last season, and to a large extent, the season before, uncoincidentally, both Super Bowl years, by the way, the Kansas City Chiefs offense struggled to the point where they had to pull the reins back. They had to tame things down. And so we didn't get as much jet motion. We didn't get as many wildcat plays. We didn't get the snow globe plays. We didn't get a whole lot of the stuff as often as Andy Reid likes to throw it out there as we are used to seeing. Why? Because you have to connect on the regular X's and O's to be able to pull that stuff out. Otherwise, no one's afraid of it. The fact that we are seeing so many things so early into practice lets me know Andy Reid is at least confident in the fact that this offense is going to be back to the levels at which Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid like to run this offense. Therefore, they can become even more dangerous because you don't know what you're going to get with them. The past 2 seasons, the Chiefs having to be sort of in this tamper down mode so that they can get the X's and O's correct because they didn't have the Jimmies and Joes, lets me know that they at least plan on opening things up in the playbook this season. That is a promising sign. Just a few notes at wide receiver, starting with Nick Jacobs. I think all of the wide receiver notes are from Nick. Yeah. Rashee Rice had a nice run off tackle to start at team, but the inside runs are tough to get any traction right now. This, again, I mentioned this because Rashee Rice getting carries, not something we saw too terribly much last season, so another sign that they are opening things up. Also, it has been reported far and wide that the Chiefs are struggling up the middle, which is confounding because the Chiefs' offensive line strength, Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey, is up the middle. The Chiefs' defensive weakness, only Chris Jones, is up the middle. So I would love to be there to understand who is playing the other defensive tackle position and see if there is any type of correlation there. Is it Fabian Levette? Is it, I don't know who it would be, but if there is someone emerging, it might be a quiet emergence for the Chiefs, or the fact that Joe Thuney is out is excruciatingly bad for this squad right now. Nick also chimes in, back in team, Hollywood Brown with an impressive catch in the flats with a Mahomes rollout. Brown made a couple miss. Here's why I included this. I am not all that familiar with Hollywood Brown in the NFL. I know what I know. I know sort of the basics. I know what you can learn from stats, what you can learn from watching him occasionally. Not terribly well-versed in what he's done the past 2 seasons in Arizona. If he is emerging as a catch and run target for the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy who has run after the catch potential, a guy who can be counted on for the intermediate game, for the short game, that can then turn things into the long game, that is a positive for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, one of those years he was in Arizona, I believe it was last season, he was more of a possession guy. He had to be the possession receiver for that offense because they had no one else to really give them all that much action in that department. That would be a plus for this offense. If he's not just a deep guy, I talked a lot about Xavier Worthy having stop ability. I did not know Hollywood Brown really to be a run after the catch guy. Worthy. Rashee Rice is a run after the catch guy. If you have multiple guys like that in an offense, it is going to be absolutely devastating for defenses trying to cover this team, for defenses trying to figure out what this team is going to do. Nick also throws in Wentz to Remigio on the delayed screen. He makes the most of it with a 15-yard plus gain. Again, another run after the catch guy in Nico Remigio, a guy who is going to sell out to catch the ball in the first place, and another day with full pads that we are getting hints about Nico Remigio and his productivity with this team. Nico Remigio, in my opinion, is absolutely going to make this team, and we get another hint of that here also from Nick. Returner order on punt Chiefs, Remigio, Worthy, Tony, Washington, Hardman worked in, and Brown was also back there. Just weren't enough punts to go around. Remigio, being the number one listed punt returner right now, is promising for his prospects of making the team. He's absolutely going to have to be a special teams contributor, especially perhaps in the absence of Justin Watson. Apparently, Justin Watson was back at practice today with his helmet on, but not his pads, catching passes off the jugs machine. That makes it seem as if the injury that we saw yesterday, not all that troubling. It sure did look like it, though. Or was it the day before? I think it was the day before. Defensive backs, we have just a few more notes here for the Chiefs. Sam McDowell says Najee Johnson left practice early today. He was limping after a cornerback wide receiver drill. After walking off the field on his own and being checked out in the tent, looked like he wanted to rejoin practice, but eventually walked up the hill. Terrible luck for Najee Johnson. I hope this does not become an issue this season as it was last season. There are some guys whose body just does not cooperate, and that is unfortunate. I hope that is not what we have with Najee Johnson. He looks like a guy who is really in position to be a contributor, so hopefully he's able to get back on the field, and this was just a tweak of something. I think we got a note about that. I did not. Ron Kopp adds starting nickel D featuring Keith Taylor on the outside with Najee Johnson leaving practice. Oh, I did have a note on that. And then I guess I didn't get the tweet. Somebody was talking about Keith Taylor looking particularly intimidating out there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Keith Taylor because we haven't really on the channel. Keith Taylor is a former 5th round pick, number 166 overall by the Carolina Panthers. He goes 6'2" 1/4", 187 pounds, with 31 1/8" arms. He had a 4.53 40 with a 1.58 10-yard split. He has a 33.5" vertical, a 10-foot 7" broad jump, did 12 reps on the bench press, a 4.27 short shuttle, and a 6.85 3-cone drills. These are all functional numbers. The only place where he really stands out is that 6'2" 1/4" height. That said, that doesn't mean that he is not a good football player. It's just that he could be a better football player than athlete. How much do we hope to see Keith Taylor? Well, maybe not a whole lot. But we already have Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson still not practicing. So the odds become ever greater that one of these other guys is going to have to step up and play outside cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Pete says, the Chiefs say Najee Johnson had an issue with his hamstring and wide receiver Justin Ross is fine. Sounds like it may have been an equipment issue. That is the only note that I have on Justin Ross, so I did not know anything happened with Justin Ross. But Najee Johnson with the hamstring, that is not a good sign. Guys get over hamstrings all the time. It's just one of those things that tends to linger. Ron adds, Brian Cook doesn't get fooled by misdirection, jumps Sky's route over the middle, and breaks up the last Mahomes pass of his team session. Again, we have Sky Moore mentioned in a not great light here, but we have Brian Cook making another big play. Brian Cook has proven to be all over the field this preseason in this training camp for the Kansas City Chiefs as he continues to appear to get better at the position. Didn't play terribly much his rookie season, played a lot more last season prior to the injury, and if he is taking yet another step, this could be a Pro Bowl type season for Brian Cook. He is able to make those plays that have to be made. On the other side of this play, we have, unfortunately, Sky Moore one more time, not looking particularly promising. I think at this point, it is unlikely Sky Moore makes the final 53. Whether or not they try to pass him through waivers and keep him on the practice squad because he does have a lot of experience and he is easily a 250-yard type guy, I don't know. Will they try to salvage something out of Sky Moore trade? So oftentimes how these things work with your general managers is your general managers look up and say, hey, I screwed up with Sky Moore. I'm going to knock on the Bears' door for whoever, right? But the Bears. Look, you've got a former fourth rounder that's not doing anything for you. I've got a former second rounder that's not doing anything for me. We both screwed up these picks. Maybe they just need a fresh start. I'll give you Sky Moore. You give me your defensive end. A lot of times that's how these picks end up moving along in their career. That way it allows both general managers on some level to save some type of face. So, will we see that in the future for Sky Moore? I do not know. That is all I have for this video. Day 6 of the Chiefs training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.